Thanks for tuning in to Kelly Gilmore Yoga. I'm excited to be your host for the next hour. You may see me get up and just check the camera. I'm doing this totally solo right now, and I've had some lovely assistance with all of these live stream videos. So if I get up, it's just to check and make sure that we're still recording. Maybe even a check on the time. I just realized I don't have the clock in here. So this is an hour of yin. And I just felt a call to do some yin. I've been seeing a lot of, which I teach also, but a lot of vinyasa flow. And I just thought that it would be a really nice time for us to slow down and get into some yin yoga. So if you are at home, well, obviously that's probably where you are. I like to cover most of my mat with a blanket. It just helps to create some nice support for my hips and even my spine. If you have a couple of blocks, some blocks can be really handy too to have. In yin yoga, we don't want to over prop. We definitely want the muscles to relax. If the muscles do not relax, the bones and the joints don't really receive the benefit of the practice. So it's really important that we have ourselves supported in a way where we don't feel like we're in pain or that we're straining at all. So, but along with that, also with yin, we really want to try to have gravity be our main prop, if you will. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we start moving through the practice. And with the hour, I'd love to try to end with just a short meditation. So so we'll see how that goes. Sometimes I get carried away just because the poses can feel so good. So we'll see how it goes. So please find a nice comfortable seat, okay? So sitting as I am in a cross-legged position, you can sit back on your heels, utilize your blocks. Maybe you have more of a cushion, like a bolster, so feel free to sit on that. One of the things I will say that you don't want something that's super soft. You don't want to feel like your joints just sort of collapse, right? So just keep that in mind, okay? So let's take a moment to arrive. I set this time at 5:30, just hoping that it could be a moment before maybe dinner, or if those of you who have been at work, this could be something that you could come home to and just find some nice relaxation. So let's sit in a nice comfortable seat. Let your eyes close. And instead of turning the palms up, have the palms face down, please. This is just a way that we start to place our body in a significant way that allows for some grounding to happen. So let's take a nice full breath in. Feel the pause, and then exhale out of the mouth or nose. Do 2 more just like that. Full inhalation. Pause. Exhale, mouth or nose. Start to feel the shoulders relax. 1 more deep, full breath in. Remembering the pause. And exhale out, mouth or nose. And please sit in this way for just about half a minute with your eyes closed if possible. Just feel the natural rhythm of your breath. And as you do that, I'm going to share a verse with you out of one of my favorite translations of the Tao Te Ching. Remembering that the practice of yin has its own philosophy, and it's not coming from a Hatha practice, but it's coming more out of Taoism, or at least that's my understanding and the way that I've been trained. This is Sophie. She loves to come around as soon as I do yin. So she might be part of the video. We'll see how it goes. This is verse 34. Any way we turn, the Tao ebbs and flows, through all, supporting all, without struggle and without end. Simply there, effortless, the Tao may seem insignificant, yet everything that turns to it gains freedom. So we consider it great, greatness with no attempt to be great. So I love this particular verse. The way that it translates for me is that when we think of the Tao can very gently stretch through the low spine, all the way down through the hips, a nice compression on the abdominal wall. So those of you that might be new to the Yin practice, as I did say in my description, that this practice is open to all levels. So it's very important for you to know that you really want to stop moving into the pose as soon as you feel any resistance. Okay, if you move past that resistance too quickly, your nervous system is not going to really like that. Right? So we're trying to just see if we can give the sympathetic nervous system a little break and allow the parasympathetic nervous system to come in, coming into that rest and digest. So you can see here, I just have my fingers interlaced. You can hold to the shins as well. And one more thing I want you to keep in mind is that Yin does not exist without Yang, and Yang does not exist without Yin. They are so complementary to one another, but we're in such a Yang time right now. And even with just spring, right? If we don't think about like what's going on politically or what's going on with the virus, just spring alone is a very Yang time, right? Things are blooming, blossoming, lots and lots of growth. There can be even like a little overstimulation, right? There's so much beauty to look at. And even though I wish I had 100 eyes to see all the beauty, right, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. And then we add the layers on top of that, right, to all of the other Yang energy that's going on. And so letting this be a time just chilling out. Take about 3 more breaths here. So Yang energy is governed by the upper body and Yin energy is governed by the lower body, which might make sense to you when we think about the heart and respiration coming from the lungs, right? The heart rate, right? A little bit more amped up. And when we think of the lower extremities of the body, more connected to earth and water. So you have earth, you have water, you have fire, you have air and space. So this practice this evening is going to focus more with earth and water. So we can feel really grounded and maybe even tapping into some sweet, creative, energetic flow. And then go ahead and drop your feet down. And then we're going to come into one of my favorite poses called Bananasana. And it's a great pose to really lengthen through the side body. So start as though you were coming into a Shavasana. And you're going to start to walk your legs over to your right. And as you walk your legs over to your right, it's very important that you keep the left hip and glute down. So you're not lifting like this, okay? So keep the left hip down as the legs walk over to the right. And again, remember, as soon as you feel any sensation, any resistance, just stop, right? Don't force anything. The reason, or one of the reasons that we hold the pose for the amount of time that we do is so that there's a time of adaptability in the body, a time that we can actually process, a time that we can receive the information and learn from it, gain knowledge from it. And you're going to start to walk your shoulders now over to the right. Keeping the left shoulder down, keeping the left hip down. Okay, so you can see how you start to create the shape of a banana. You can also think of it as a new moon. And then you'll take your left ankle, cross it over your right, and see how that feels. So I can't tell you where specifically in your body you're going to feel this. You're going to feel it wherever you're holding tension, and we all hold tension differently. So from here, if you're still pretty comfortable, you can start to reach your arms overhead. Move one beautiful singing bowl out of the way here. You can reach your arms overhead and take the right hand to clasp the left forearm or the left wrist. You might have to adjust a little bit here. So you feel the back of the skull on the floor, you feel the shoulders on the floor. And if this doesn't work for you to take arms overhead, just keep your arms down by your side. The idea here is to feel the whole left side of the body getting a nice opening. Starting off on the lunar side, the side that's associated to the feminine energy as we have this full moon that's coming up. And if you're here and you're like, well, I'm not really feeling much of anything, see if you can find some length through the heels of the feet all the way to the top of the head. And then maybe walk your shoulders and your feet over just a little bit more to the right. And that's when the left arm might find its way overhead, even maybe resting on your block. So we're putting the spine in a lateral flexion. So all the muscles along the side body, and even the ones that wrap from the back to the front, front to the back, have an opportunity to receive. You might have your eyes closed, just tuning in. Notice where you're gripping, let your glute muscles relax, feel your legs relax all the way through the belly, up into the chest, soften your eyes. And you'll be here for several more breaths. One more device going here just so I can check out and see what's going on, see that we're on. So you've got about another minute and a half here, okay? So stay with it. Oh, good. Okay. All right. So whenever we're holding any position where we have the spine in either a rotation, a flexion, or extension for a period of time, we want to tone the abdominal wall to come out. So let the navel pull gently back to the spine. Either start with your feet or start with your shoulders to come back to center. Sometimes it's like you can orient yourself just holding the outer edges of your sticky mat, so you can kind of feel the middle of whatever you're lying on. And just take a moment here and just feel from left to right, right to left. The left side should feel like it's a little bit longer, got a little bit more of an energetic flow with it. Okay, let's go to the second side. So the feet walk over to the left, keeping the right hip down. And just notice right there, I have scoliosis in my low back, so that just, I get a lot more information when I go to the left than when I go to the right. So just, again, honoring whatever our body is offering us at this moment. And then from here, we walk our shoulders to the left, stopping as soon as you feel any resistance at all. Right arm can come overhead. You can even, it's like you're lounging. Let the back of the skull rest into the palm of the hand, and then maybe the right ankle comes onto the top of the left. And even for some of you, it might not be here on the side that's getting the opening. It might be more on the side that's getting the compression. So when we're working with the yin poses, we're working with compression and tension, right? Creating the balance of the two, just like we're creating the balance of the yin and the yang. And the muscles get out of the way. The muscles reap the benefits, but really what we're focusing on is the tendons, the ligaments, the joints, right? The deep tissue that's in the joints. Think of it as connective tissue, right? So if we think of fascia, the whole system of the fascial system of the body, there are many layers to the fascial system. You can think of it as a web, right? So a spider web. And if you pull on one end of the web, you'll see the whole web moves in that direction, right? And so we can think of our fascial system in that way. And then once you've found a place where you can linger and breathe, stay there. Not every yin pose is super comfortable. If we hold tension in particular parts of the spine or around these particular muscles, there could be a slight bit of discomfort, but I really want you to pay attention to what the difference is between pain and discomfort. Even though this practice this evening is for all levels, it's a little bit more intermediate in trying to isolate, right? Isolate certain parts of the body. So while we keep the muscles really soft and relaxed, notice if we're gripping in the glutes or the jaw. We want to feel as though the joint itself, remember every one of the spine, or every one of the vertebra of the spine is a joint. There's a long ligament, right, running right down the middle of the spine, with several other tendons that are connecting muscles to the spine. Yin is definitely a practice where we acknowledge that less can be more. Eyes open or closed, and drop into the rhythm of your breath. Even feeling the breath coming down into the low parts of the abdomen, even out, expanding to the right waist, the left waist. And if you have your head propped up on your right hand, make sure your shoulder is in agreement with it. Have about 1 more minute here, so if you want to go further, go further. If you went too far, then ease back out. Opening up the right side here, which is associated to the sun side, the masculine side. About 3 more breaths. And as you did on the first side, start to tone the abdominal wall. Just coming out of this lateral flexion. Nice and slow. Nice and slow, nice and slow. Coming back. Just pull your arms down by your sides. Feel like it's coming back into your center. Take a nice full breath here, feeling right to left, left to right. Let the next exhalation pull both knees into the chest together or one at a time and squeeze the knees back into the chest. And just notice how it might feel a little different than you did it a moment ago before Bananasana. And then from here, roll to your right or your left side. And then find your way coming up. Okay, now from here we're going to come into deer pose. Okay, so deer pose is a really nice way to open up into the hip joint. Okay, so you're going to sit as I am here. So the right knee is towards the outer edge of the mat. The left knee can come into the right foot, or you can have your left knee come away from your right foot. Okay. Now there's a little bit of rotation here, so we're going to turn a little over towards the right leg, and then again we're all just have different bodies, right? So some of you may find you want to turn your belly and your chest and fold right over the inseam of your right thigh and be right here. You might even take whenever you have a pillow, a block, or anything, and put right here. Okay, so you're going to feel. Most of us are going to feel a lot of sensation right through this part of the hip here, okay? Now, if you have a little bit more range of motion, you can start to slide your right heel a little further away, and then you might fold more over the shin, so it might look more like this, right? So you're coming more in this direction, okay? So you're either folding over the inseam of the right knee, or you're coming more to the inseam of the shin. And take a moment, play with it. You know, take about 5 seconds, 10 seconds or so, just to see as you come down into the flexion here, how that feels on your back, how it feels on your hip. A little bit of discomfort is very normal here, okay? So I'm going to come right down into the middle of the shin. I like to hook my forearm into my foot just to give me a little bit of leverage, so therefore I can really relax through the chest, through the arms, the upper back, all the way up into the brain. Some of us will feel more in the back leg because it's doing internal rotation, and we very rarely do a lot of internal rotation. So that means you might want to walk your left knee closer towards your right heel.
Take a nice full breath in, like you're breathing all the way down into your right hip or your left hip if your left leg is forward. I don't think I actually told you which leg to bring forward, so whichever one it is fine. Just feel the breath spread out through the body. I really encourage you, even if you don't feel anything in the first 20 or 30 seconds of being in this position, hang out here. Right, that's the beauty of not being rushed. That little by little, what's happening in the muscle tissue, what's happening through the tendons and ligaments, the communication isn't rushed. My personal opinion is that everything's moving a little too quickly anyway, and I think this sweet pause that we've been able to take, or maybe it's not sweet for you, but this pause that we've been able to take with this virus has allowed us to just take a step back and recognize in our life where we're in overdrive and where we can just relax a little bit there. See if you can get heavier to the bones of your legs. Five more breaths. Really engage with your breath. Follow it all the way in. Notice where you feel like you're starting to strain a little. And as soon as you feel that, you're over efforting. And then as you exhale, you can even exhale out of the mouth. Okay, and then we're slowly going to come out, so bring the hands, and just push the earth away as you slowly bring your chest back up. Okay, so this is just a nice way again to feel the out seam of the right leg, and then let's switch sides. So now the left leg or the other leg's going to just simply swing to the other side, and then find, if you want your right knee in a little closer to your left, either turn the belly and the chest over the left knee, or let's play with it a little bit and see where you find. The right sit bone is going to be off the ground, the left hip is going to be very heavy. Take a nice inhale, create length, and as you exhale, finding your way to any forward fold. Remember, one side's probably going to give you a different conversation than the other side.
don't be afraid to find the edge. Okay? And I'm fine with us playing our edges as long as we feel as though we don't create anxiety. So if we can find an edge in a skillful way where we know we're really getting into some depth into the joint. And again, there might be a slight discomfort that comes with that. We are creatures of comfort. So as soon as we feel the least bit of discomfort, of course, what do we want to do? That's the fight or flight. That's when we want to get out of there. But to literally be able to change and shift anything, whether it's physically or emotionally, right? We have to face it. We have to go through it. So just going through a little bit of that discomfort to call in synovial fluid into the hip joint. And if you have hip replacements and you're doing this practice, just do the best that you can, right, when it comes into the hip openers. About 5 more breaths. Slow, smooth. Good. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Feel weight through the hips to the legs, and then slowly push your way back up. Okay. You can move the block out of the way. Well, actually, keep whatever. If you have a block, if you have a prop, keep it close. Okay, and then I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together, coming into butterfly pose. So don't think of your vinyasa practice or your hatha yoga practice where you're really pulling the heels in close and trying to drop the knees, right? I want you to think of more of a diamond shape. So start to take the heels a little further away from the pelvic floor. Right? And then you may find that this is enough, okay? And of course, there's a lot of external rotation, okay? So just find where you feel as though you can externally rotate. And then I like to take a block, if you have one, and I put it on the inseams of my feet. And then inhale, nice long spine. Feel the sits bones nice and heavy to earth. And then as you exhale, you'll start to walk your way forward. You may stop right here. Again, remember, as soon as you feel resistance, stop. Pause, breathe. Be investigative in your body. Be more just curious about what's happening within your body. Let this be a very internal experience. Try to let go of the external as much as you can. Little by little, breath by breath, as the body allows, not the ego, but the body, you start to let your forehead maybe come down to the block. If you have a chair close by, you could also put a chair right here and just let your forearms or your elbows rest on the chair, or drop your head to the chair. Now just let gravity do what gravity does. Let's feel that pull to earth, that pull to ground, that pull to remind you that you're safe. As soon as we don't feel safe, again, we go right into that fight or flight. You're looking for more sensation. Let your block come to a second level, and then drop your head a little closer. You can hold to your feet just to give you a little lever. We'll be here for several more breaths. The main thing I want you to pay attention to here is what's happening in the low back, especially into the SI joints. Okay, there's three main actions that we're doing here with external rotation, abduction, and then flexion. And so just make sure that your low back feels safe in this position. You'll definitely feel a stretch along the spine. If you don't have a block, you can always put your elbows on your shins and let your head, or excuse me, your chin rest in your hands. I know we're not supposed to touch our face right now, but hopefully your hands are clean so you can do this. Some of you have heard me share the story with you when I did my very first Yin class. I kind of wanted to leave. I was very much into stimulation, and my practice needed to be hot and fast, and it benefited me for sure at that time in my life. But when I dropped into a Yin class, I just maybe I just didn't understand it, but I didn't like this. I felt like I was just sitting there, and so I understand if you're new to Yin, and that might be an experience that you're having. So I invite you to just, again, be curious with what's really happening within your body. Getting away from that overstimulation. Let's take 5 more breaths here.
Walk the hands back up underneath. Shoulders, walk your way back up. Okay, and then swing your legs over to your left or to your right. Take a moment, if you can, you're going to sit back on your heels. Okay, if your knees don't want to do this or your ankles don't want to do it, see if elevating your hips a little might be helpful. Just taking a moment. This can actually be a really nice way to open up the front of the ankle joints. Take 3 breaths here. Every time you exhale, just feel the weight of the world leave your shoulders. From here, we're going to come down onto our belly and we're going to come into seal pose. This is a great pose to really create some lubrication through the low spine. For some of you, it'll feel like almost like a heat pump is being turned on in the low back. And one of the things I'm going to say to this pose in particular is if you ever feel an electrical jolt, right? That means that you're on a nerve. You just need to shift and move around. And so I'll show you a few different variations. So as you come down onto your belly, I like to have a blanket again just to support the pubic bone. So if your low back is really tight, you'll start with your forearms crossed and your forehead resting. Okay, so this is still coming into extension of the spine. If you're okay here, then you'll start to come up onto your elbows and forearms. So the elbows are right under the shoulders. Okay, or if it's too much, you walk your elbows more forward, and that's going to drop your rib cage and your chest a little bit more down towards the floor. The legs might need to come a little further apart, just to create a little bit more room into the low back. Okay, so if you're here, remember, as I said earlier, that yang energy is governed by the upper body, or the upper body governs yang energy. So push the floor down gently with your forearms and your elbows and even into the heels of your hands. So you're not here, right? You don't want to be here. So you're pushing the floor down and finding length through the neck. And some of you, depending on the health of your spine, the health of your low back, you might have to draw your navel gently into the spine so that there's a little bit more length that you're feeling in your low back. If you can, you try to let your abdominal wall soften, let your glutes relax, all the way down through the arches of the feet. If you feel a lot of sensation in your low back, I'm sure you're not the only one. I do as well, but again, it feels safe, okay? If you're low spine, if you have a fusion, right? There's a lot of L5-S1 fusions. And so we just do the best that we can here, okay? Some of you might be getting permission from your body to come into full seal, where you take your hands wide, okay, turn them out, and then push down into the earth, and then from here, you start to straighten your elbows. Again, as long as you're not clenching through your glutes and you don't feel like you're just dumping into your low back. And if you tried it out and it definitely doesn't work for you, then come right back down to the forearms, and we'll be here or wherever you are for one more minute. We have very dense tissue in the low part of the spine, as that tissue is responsible for literally connecting the spine to the sacrum. The vertebrae are much larger as we move down the spine. And if I start to get distracted here, what I usually bring to mind is a visualization of the nerves splaying out of the spinal column and remembering how the nerves govern every system of the body. So in the low back, these nerves splaying from the low back, they govern the bladder, for one. And then assist in the colon. And then feed into the muscle tissue that's in the back and moving down into the hips and the gluteals. When we nourish our spine, we nourish our nervous system. Don't get lazy in your arms. You have to keep pushing down through the forearms, not letting the shoulders ride up to the ears. Just about 5 more breaths here. See if you can let the pelvis get heavier, the leg bones get heavier, all the way down to the toes. The next exhalation, take your time, start to walk your elbows forward, let your forearms stack, let your forehead rest on your forearms so you keep your nose pointing down to the earth. As you inhale, feel the back waist inflate as the navel pushes down into earth. So it's like you're feeling your breath move north, south, east, west. Good. And then hands come under the shoulders. Push down into the floor, come back up, find your way into a tabletop position, all fours. Please don't cat or cow, just stay right here for a moment. Shoulders over wrists, knees over, or knees under hips. And then draw your belly strongly back to the spine. Feel like the lowest part of the abdomen is being pulled up right now. It's a really nice complementary position to put the body in after seal. And then from here, curl the toes under, and you're either going to pull your hips back to a child's pose, Reaching through the arms, staying here, or if you want to lift up into a downward facing dog, it can be very complementary too. Okay, just getting a little bit more decompression through the spine. So you choose. You're either going to go down dog or child's pose. You'll take 5 breaths there. Please, if you're in down dog, come down to the knees. You're going to come back onto your back. Squeeze the knees back into your chest. Make sure the back of the head is nice and flat on the floor. Pull the knees back into the chest. Place your left foot down to the floor and extend your right leg up to the sky. Interlace the fingers, if you can, behind your right leg. Don't worry about reaching through your heel or putting your leg into a Tadasana. Just let the leg relax. Just using your arms here to pull your right leg in a little towards your chest. The right knee might have a nice bend to it, and that's perfectly fine. Make sure that your hips are down, so you're not lifting your hips like that, right? Your hips are nice and heavy down on the ground. Feel free to use your arms here, pulling your leg in a little more if you like. You might be here, because the hamstrings are a little stubborn. Drop the right foot back down. Inhale, take the left leg up. Hold anywhere you can. If you have nice long arms, you can reach for your foot. But again, don't force anything, okay? Keep this practice this evening just soft and gentle. Using the arms, pull the left leg in as much as you feel as you can without overstimulation. Find depth in your breath. By slowing down, you have the opportunity to feel the difference between the right side and left side. Pull in just a little bit more if you can. Really feel that nice elongation from the sit bone on the left side all the way down to the heel. We have one line of superficial fascia that starts at the arch, goes all the way down the back of the leg, down behind the sacrum, up the spine, and all the way to the forehead. One line of fascia. It's quite fascinating. And slowly let the left foot come down. Take the arms out to the side. I know we're getting a little short on time, but let's take a spinal twist. So as we exhale, the knees come into the chest and then drop over to the right. So this is where I like to take a block and place a block between my shins or between my knees so that my top leg can really relax. This is a hip opener, a spinal twist, a shoulder opener. There's a lot going on. So you could even place your left hand on the left rib cage, right, if it's too much to have your left arm extended out. Nose to the sky, or turn your head to the left. So anytime we go into spinal rotation, the psoas muscle wants to fire. It's its job. It's what it wants to do. So we're trying to have that inner communication with our bodies, that to tell the psoas to relax, right? To let the hip flexors soften as much as we can. The inner thighs are nice and relaxed. We are capable of so many things. We just have to put the focus and the attention to it. Notice if you're cranking or you're really trying too hard to accomplish something particular in this pose, and just let that go. So this particular room, there's a cardinal that is determined that there's another cardinal on the other side of that window. He's been doing it for, if it's the same cardinal, for years. Poor guy. Sometimes we can feel like that sometimes, like we just keep banging our head against the wall sometimes. Alright, now we're going to come out, so draw the navel into the spine, find your way coming up, let the feet drop down, take a full breath in here. As you exhale, your hips sway just a little to the right, reaching the arms out, and then letting the knees drop over to the left. You might even, if you have a pillow or a bolster, you could put your bottom leg, like you're seeing me do here. I didn't show you this on the first side, but and that can be really comfortable too. So if you remember right in the beginning, I told you I had scoliosis, so when I either take my legs to the left or I twist to the left, I generally need a little bit more support than I do on the right. Take the left hand to the top of the right leg. It's feeling from the front of the chest all the way down the spine, through the right hip. When your belly is in this kind of compression, you can really feel the inhalation and the exhalation as you're utilizing your diaphragm to breathe. Twists are great for doing just that, putting a little bit of compression into the vital organs. So in a moment when we come out of this, it's like a kink in a hose opening up, letting all that fresh blood and energy. In the Yin philosophy, we refer to it as the chi. The same thing that we would refer to in Hindu philosophy as prana. draw the navel into the spine. Slowly, very slowly, very slowly. Find your way coming out. Let the feet find the earth again. Sway your hips back to the center if you had them over to the right a little bit. One last time, squeeze the knees into the chest. If you want to take a baby pose here, holding the outside edges of the feet, you're welcome to. Or you're just pulling your knees into your chest. And then we'll come into a short Shavasana. So let your legs splay out, maybe placing something underneath your knees if you need it. You could also scoot your way to a piece of furniture so that your legs can be resting, a chair or a sofa if you have it, in the room where you are. Let the legs go nice and wide. Let your arms come away from your body. Just feel this deep relaxation, but also feel how it feels like there's this hydration through the body, through the joints, which keeps us mobile. It keeps our joints less prone to injury. And when there's a balance between the muscles and the joints, the body overall physically functions better. Take a full body breath in and exhale out of the mouth. If it's really bright in your room, I suggest taking a piece of fabric, it could be a sleeve of a sweater or sweatshirt, and place it over the eyes for a moment, just so there can be a really nice invitation to find a really sweet, deep relaxation. And whatever you feel as though you stirred up emotionally, make sure that you give yourself permission to not cling to that, not hold to it. Just let it be a learning experience. Let it become knowledge, not judgment. Feel every bone, every muscle, every joint. From the arches of the feet all the way up to the top of the head. Relax and let go. Any way we turn, the Tao ebbs and flows, through all, supporting all, without struggle and without end. Simply there, effortless. The Tao may seem insignificant, yet everything that turns to it gains freedom. So we consider it greatness, with no attempt to be great.
for tuning in. I hope to see you next Thursday.